Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked through the crystal halls of Nexus Prime, her boots clicking against the smooth floor. The space station orbited a neutron star, and through the massive windows, she could see the deadly lights spinning in perfect circles. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. She had been Earth's voice in the Galactic Council for 5 years now. 5 long years of careful words and careful steps. The other species in the Council treated humans like children who might break something important if left alone. Elena stopped at a viewing window and looked out at the ships, docked around the station. Sleek vessels from the architects gleamed like living metal. The Contemplatives' bioships looked more like floating jellyfish than anything built by hands. And there, looking rough and ugly next to the others, sat the human transport that had brought her here. Still admiring the view, Ambassador, Elena turned to see Kethver approaching. The architect was tall and thin, made of what looked like living crystal. When he moved, light danced through his transparent body in patterns that hurt human eyes to follow for too long. Just thinking, Elena said. She had learned to be careful with her words around the prime resonance of the architects. Every human word was recorded, studied, and judged. Thinking about your species' latest achievements? Kethver's voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. 3 more worlds transformed. The Council is most interested in how humans can make life grow where none should exist. Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the space station's climate control. The terraforming of the 3 dead worlds had been a triumph for human engineering. Worlds that every other species had declared hopeless wastelands were now green and growing. But the way Kethver said achievements made it sound like a crime. We work hard, Elena said simply. We find ways to make things work. Yes, you do. Kethver tilted his crystalline head. Perhaps too well. Perhaps too quickly. The architect glided away without another word, leaving Elena alone with her worried thoughts. 30 years had passed since the first human ship had stumbled into Council space. Captain Sarah Chun's exploration vessel had been running from the Kythera swarms when they discovered the jump gate that led to civilization. The Kythera were monsters from the edge of the galaxy, creatures that ate entire worlds and turned them into hive ships. Humanity had been fighting them for 20 years before finding the Council. The Council had been surprised to meet another species that could fight the Kythera and win. Most races ran or hid when the swarms appeared. Humans fought back with tricks and weapons that no one had thought of before. They turned asteroid fields into minefields. They built ships that could ram Kythera vessels and still survive. They even figured out how to use the swarm's own biology against them. When the border conflicts ended, the Council offered humanity membership. It seemed like a gift from the stars. Humans would have access to thousands of years of knowledge, trade routes that spanned the galaxy, and protection from threats they had never imagined. But the gift came with chains. Elena walked toward the Council chambers, passing other species representatives. The Zeridian Collective members moved in their water-filled suits, their tentacles writing constantly in languages humans were still learning to read. The Thermal Court's delegates glowed with internal heat that could melt steel. Each species was ancient, powerful, and absolutely certain that they knew what was best for the galaxy. Humans were the newest members, and they were reminded of it every single day. The Council operated on something they called guided evolution. Older species helped younger ones grow at a safe pace. It sounded wise until you realized it meant the older species decided what safe meant. For humans, safe meant small. Human ships could only travel to systems the Council approved. Human research was watched and controlled. Any technology that seemed too advanced had to be shared with Council oversight. When human engineers invented a new type of engine, the Contemplatives decided it was too dangerous and locked the plans away. when human farmers developed crops that could grow in toxic soil. The architects demanded the formula be given to them for proper study. Elena had spent 5 years watching human achievements be taken, limited, or destroyed by species that claimed to know better. She had smiled and nodded and spoken politely while inside she burned with frustration. The council chambers were a massive sphere where representatives could float, swim, or stand depending on their species' needs. Elena took her place at the human station, a simple platform with a microphone and a chair. Around the sphere, other species had elaborate setups that matched their nature. Speaker Zermuth of the Contemplatives floated in a cloud of gas that sparkled with thoughts humans could not understand. The thermal quartz delegate sat in a pool of liquid metal that would kill most other life forms. And above them all, Prime Resonance Kethver stood on a crystal platform that sang with harmonic frequencies. "Today we discuss human expansion," Kethver announced. His voice carried through the chamber without need for technology. "The Council has noted concerning patterns in human colonial behavior." Elena felt her heart begin to race. She had been expecting this for months. Human colonies were doing too well. They were growing too fast. They were making other species look bad. The evidence was presented with clinical precision. Human colonies and systems other species had abandoned were not just surviving but thriving. Trade agreements made directly with non-council species without asking permission first. Worst of all, human colonies were sharing their terraforming techniques with other species outside the council's control. "This cannot continue," Zermuth spoke, his words floating through the gas cloud like living things. "Order must be maintained. The young species must learn patience." Elena stood slowly. Around the chamber, alien eyes and sensors turned toward her. She felt like a mouse surrounded by cats, but she was humanity's voice. She had to speak. "The colonies are following all council regulations," she said, keeping her voice steady. "We have broken no laws." "Laws change," Kethver replied, "when circumstances require it. The Council will vote on new measures to ensure galactic stability, for the good of all species, including humanity." Elena felt the trap closing around her species like a steel cage. She looked around the chamber at faces and forms that held no warmth for humanity. They had made their decision before the session had even started. Humans had grown too fast, achieved too much, and scared too many old species who thought they knew how the galaxy should work. As she sat back down, Elena reached under her console and pressed a hidden button. A message, coded in a way only humans would understand, began its journey back to Earth. 3 words that would change everything. The bridge burns. The emergency session began at dawn, station time. Elena had not slept. She had spent the night reading reports from Earth, each one making her angrier than the last. Human colonies across the galaxy had been reporting strange equipment failures, communication blackouts, and mysterious delays in their research projects. Now she knew why. The council chamber felt different today. Where yesterday there had been cold politeness, now there was barely hidden hostility. Elena could feel the weight of alien attention pressing down on her like a physical thing. Prime Resonance Kethver rose from his crystal platform. When he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that made human bones ache. "The Council has reached a decision regarding the human problem." The human problem. Elena's hands tightened on the arms of her chair. "Evidence has been gathered," Kethver continued. Screens around the chamber lit up with images. Human ships traveling through space. Human colonies growing and spreading. Human traders meeting with species Elena had never heard of. Humanity has exceeded the bounds of acceptable expansion. Speaker Zermuth's gas cloud shifted colors as he prepared to speak. Young species require guidance. Without it, they repeat the mistakes of the past. They grow too quickly. They reach too far. They endanger all life. The screens changed to show star charts. Red marks appeared over human colonies, spreading like a disease across the galaxy. Elena counted them quickly. 147 colonies across 89 systems. Each one a human success story. Each one now marked for destruction. The containment protocols will be implemented immediately, HFY announced. All human presence beyond the Sol system must end within 1 standard year. Human military forces will be reduced to home system defense only. All human research into faster-than-light travel will be transferred to Council oversight. Elena stood up so fast her chair fell over. The sound echoed through the chamber like a gunshot. "You cannot be serious." "Deadly serious," Zermath replied. His gas cloud pulsed red with what might have been anger. Humanity has proven itself incapable of self-control. You spread like a plague. You take worlds others have abandoned and make them productive. You upset the natural order. We make dead worlds live again, Elena shot back. We turn wastelands into gardens. How is that wrong? Because it gives other species ideas, a new voice said. Elena turned to see Vekmer of the Zeridian Collective speaking through his water suit. Lesser species see what humans achieve and begin to question why they must accept limitations. Order becomes chaos. Elena felt like she had been punched in the stomach. Lesser species? Is that what you think we are? The silence that followed was answer enough. HFY's crystal body sang with harmonic vibrations. Humanity lacks evolutionary maturity. Your species is driven by emotion rather than wisdom. You take risks that endanger not just yourselves, but all galactic civilization. What risks? Elena demanded. What have we done that threatens anyone? The screens changed again. This time, they showed something that made Elena's blood turn cold. Detailed schematics of human ships, down to the smallest components. Maps of human colonies with precise population counts. Communication logs from conversations Elena had thought were private. Even her own medical records from her annual checkups. We have been watching, HFY said simply. We watch all species when they join the Council. We monitor their development. We guide their growth. We prevent disasters before they occur. Elena stared at the screens, showing 30 years of human privacy stripped away. You've been spying on us. On everything we do. We call it guardianship, Zermath said. Every species receives such attention when they are young. It is how we maintain peace. By violating our trust? By preventing you from becoming another precursor incident. HFY's voice turned sharp. The precursors thought themselves ready for unlimited expansion. They believed their technology made them wise. They were wrong. Their recklessness nearly destroyed all galactic civilization. Elena had heard of the precursors in school, an ancient race that had vanished long before humans reached the stars. History books said they had destroyed themselves through some terrible mistake. But looking at the cold faces around the chamber, Elena began to wonder if that was the whole truth. Humanity will accept the containment protocols, Vekmer said, or face corrective measures. Corrective measures, Elena repeated slowly. You mean war. We prefer to think of it as intervention, Zermath replied. For your own good, and for the good of the galaxy. Elena looked around the chamber at species she had once admired. The wise contemplatives with their ancient knowledge. The brilliant architects with their impossible technologies. The stable Zeridian Collective with their perfect social order. She saw them clearly now. Not as wise guardians, but as jailers who called their prison paradise. How long? She asked quietly. For what? HFY asked. How long do we have to decide? 72 hours, Zermath said. Time enough for humanity to see reason. Time enough to avoid unpleasantness. Elena reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. The translation matrix had let her understand alien languages and let them understand hers. She looked at it for a moment, then set it carefully on her console. "Ambassador Vasquez," Kethver said. "What are you doing?" Elena walked toward the chamber's exit without looking back. Behind her, she could hear confused alien voices asking questions in languages she could no longer understand. She did not slow down at the chamber door. She turned back one last time. The translation matrix on her console caught her words and broadcast them clearly to every species in the chamber. "You want to know what humanity is capable of when we feel threatened? You want to see what happens when you corner a species that has been fighting monsters since before we knew you existed?" Elena smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "Keep watching your screens. You'll find out soon enough." She walked out of the chamber and did not look back. In her quarters, Elena activated her communication system. The message she sent was short and coded in a way only humans would understand. But its meaning was clear to anyone on Earth who received it. "The bridge is burning. Come home." Within minutes, responses began arriving from human colonies across the galaxy. The same message, repeated from world after world. Message received. Coming home. Elena sat back in her chair and smiled for real this time. The Council thought they knew what humanity was capable of. They thought 30 years of watching had shown them everything they needed to know. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The first ships appeared at New Geneva Colony exactly 48 hours after Elena's message reached Earth. The colonists had been expecting them. Captain Maria Santos stood on the observation deck of her colony ship and watched the massive vessels drop out of faster-than-light travel. They were not like the usual human transports. These ships were larger, sleeker, and moved with a purpose that spoke of long planning. "Arc ship Prometheus requesting docking permission," came the voice over the communication system. "We are here for the evacuation." Maria smiled. The evacuation. As if they were running from a natural disaster, instead of leaving behind everything they had built, because the galaxy's powers had decided humans were too dangerous to be free. "Permission granted, Prometheus. Welcome to New Geneva." For the last time. The evacuation of New Geneva took exactly 6 days. The Ark ships were marvels of engineering that no Council species had ever seen before. They could carry entire populations along with all their equipment, their animals, their libraries, and their hopes. Ship after ship arrived, loaded colonists and supplies, and vanished again into the dark between stars. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out on world after world. Human colonies that had taken years to build were packed up and moved in weeks. The speed of it stunned other species who watched through their telescopes and sensor arrays. On Kepler 442b, the human farming settlement left behind grain silos, full of food for the local bird-like species that had become dependent on human crops. On Ross 128b, human miners transferred ownership of their extraction equipment to the indigenous crystal growers who had worked alongside them. On Vol 359c, human researchers left their atmospheric processors, running to continue the decades-long project of making the world breathable for other species. The Galactic Council watched the exodus with growing alarm. At first, they had assumed humanity was bluffing. Species did not simply abandon successful colonies because of political pressure. The economic cost alone should have made it impossible, but humans were doing it. Anyway, Prime Resonance Kethver stood in the council chamber, watching status reports flood in from across the galaxy. Human colonies were emptying at a rate that should have been impossible. Trade routes that had depended on human goods for decades were shutting down overnight. Agricultural worlds that used human farming techniques were reporting massive crop failures as the technology stopped working. How are they moving so many people so quickly? He asked the assembled intelligence officers. Fleet Commander Zextai of the Thermal Courts stepped forward. His metallic body glowed red with embarrassment. Our analysis suggests they have been preparing for this possibility for years, perhaps decades. The ships they are using are of unknown design. Our sensors cannot track their destination. Unknown design? Zermath's gas cloud shifted to an alarmed yellow color. How can an entire fleet design be unknown to Council intelligence? They built them in the deep dark, another officer reported. Outside normal space lanes, using asteroids and materials that do not appear on any trade manifest. Our surveillance focused on their official colonies and shipyards. We did not monitor empty space. Kethver felt something he had not experienced in centuries: uncertainty. Where are they going? Unknown prime resonance. Our long-range sensors lose track of them at the edge of surveyed space. They appeared to be heading toward the galactic core, but that should be impossible. Nothing can survive that close to the central black hole. Speaker Zermath floated higher in his containment field. Send diplomatic messages to all departing human vessels. Remind them that the containment protocols can be negotiated. There is no need for such drastic action. The response came back within hours. The same message broadcast from every human ship. We came in peace. We leave in peace. Do not follow. By the end of the first month, 47 human colonies had been completely evacuated. By the end of the second month, 93. The galactic economy began to shake as supply chains collapsed and food shortages spread to worlds that had grown dependent on human agricultural innovations. The Zeridian Collective was the first to panic. Their ocean worlds had relied on human bioenhancement techniques to maintain the plankton levels that fed their entire ecosystem. Without human technicians to maintain the equipment, the oceans began to die. This is intolerable, Dekmer declared during an emergency council session. We demand that humanity be compelled to honor their existing contracts. With what leverage? Kethver asked. They are leaving. They are taking their people, their knowledge, and their technology with them. We cannot force them to return. Reports continued to pour in from across council space. The thermal court's deep space mining operations were shutting down as human designed. Extraction equipment failed without maintenance. Asteroid farming stations built using human techniques were going dark one by one. Even the architects' crystal cities were experiencing power fluctuations as human energy management systems degraded. Worse than the economic chaos were the political effects. 3 minor species formally requested to withdraw from Council membership. The Mantis worlds declared independence from Council authority. The Spiral Alliance began restricting Council access to their trade routes. The other species are questioning our authority, Zermath reported during a closed session. If humanity can simply walk away from Council law, what prevents others from doing the same? Then we bring them back, Fleet Commander Zextai said. We show the galaxy that defiance has consequences. Kethver considered this. The combined fleet was the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Surely it could handle one species of primitive newcomers, no matter how clever they thought they were. Very well. Mobilize the fleet. Find the human colonies and bring them back to Council authority. Use whatever force is necessary. But even as the orders went out, strange reports began arriving from across Council space. Communication networks experienced mysterious glitches. Trade computers developed errors that somehow favored non-Council species. Security systems failed at precisely the moments when sensitive data could be stolen. Most disturbing of all, several high-security Council facilities received packages containing detailed blueprints of their own defensive systems. Each package came with the same note, written in perfect Council standard. We were always watching, too. The message was clear. Humanity had not just been preparing to leave. They had been preparing for what might come after dawn as the combined fleet gathered at Nexus Prime. Kethver stared out at the assembled warships and wondered if the Council had finally encountered a species that was more dangerous when cornered than when left alone. The hunt for humanity was about to begin. But for the first time in his long life, the prime resonance of the architects was not certain who was really the hunter and who was the prey. The combined fleet was the largest military force assembled since the Kithra Wars. 500 ships from 12 different species, each one a masterpiece of advanced technology. Their combined firepower could reduce entire solar systems to space dust. Fleet Admiral Lexara of the Contemplatives commanded from her massive bioship, a living vessel that could think and fight on its own. Around her, the bridge crew worked in pools of specialized gas that enhanced their mental abilities. Through the ship's organic sensors, she could feel the fleet spread out in perfect formation. Long-range sensors are tracking the human evacuation routes, reported her tactical officer. They lead toward the galactic core, as intelligence predicted. Lexara studied the holographic display floating in the gas above her command pool. The human ships had left trails that any decent sensor array could follow. Either they were not as clever as the Council had feared, or they wanted to be followed. "Maintain pursuit speed," she ordered. "We will run them down within the week." The fleet followed the human trail for 6 days. They passed through empty space where human colonies had once thrived, finding only abandoned infrastructure and echoing communication. Beacons that broadcast the same message over and over. "We came in peace. We leave in peace. Do not follow." But the Council ships did follow. They followed the trail deeper into space, toward the dangerous radiation fields that surrounded the galaxy's central black hole. No species had ever established permanent settlements in that region. The energy storms alone could fry most known technologies. On the 7th day, the fleet reached the end of the trail. "Admiral," the sensor officer's voice was confused. "The human energy signatures simply stop. Stop how?" Lexara demanded. "Ships do not just disappear." "Unknown, Admiral. One moment our sensors show human vessels. The next moment there is nothing. No debris, no energy residue, no trace of their passage." Lexara rose from her command pool, her gas-adapted body flowing through the specialized atmosphere. "That is impossible. Deploy probe ships. Search every asteroid, every gas cloud, every piece of space debris in this system." The search took 2 days. The fleet's most advanced sensors scanned every cubic meter of space within 100 light years. They found nothing. No hidden bases, no camouflage ships, no signs that humans had ever existed. "They have to be here somewhere," Kethver insisted during a fleet conference. His crystal body glowed with frustrated energy. Matter cannot simply cease to exist. Fleet Commander Zextai disagreed. "Perhaps they can. Human technology has always been unexpected. They may have developed some form of advanced stealth system. Stealth sufficient to hide entire colonies?" Lexara's voice carried disbelief. "Including their thermal signatures, their gravitational effects, their quantum resonance? Impossible." But impossible or not, the humans were gone. Back in Council space, the situation was getting worse by the day. The galactic economy was collapsing as systems that had depended on human innovation failed one by one. Entire worlds faced starvation as agricultural techniques that humans had developed stopped working without proper maintenance. The Zeridian Collective formally declared a state of emergency as their ocean worlds began to die. The thermal courts shut down their outer mining operations as extraction equipment failed beyond repair. Even the proud architects found their crystal cities growing dark as power management systems degraded. "This is intolerable," Speaker Zermath declared during an emergency session. "We must find them." The stability of the entire galaxy depends on it. We are trying, Admiral Dexara reported from her flagship. But it is as if they have left our dimension entirely. Our sensors show no trace of human presence anywhere in the galaxy. That was when the first strike happened. The Council's primary communication relay in the Vega system simply stopped working. Not broken, not destroyed, just stopped. Engineers who investigated found that someone had rewritten the control software with code so elegant and efficient that it actually improved the system's performance. Except now it only worked for non-Council species. Within hours, similar strikes hit communication networks across Council space. Always the same pattern. No violence, no destruction, just systems that suddenly worked better for everyone except the Council. Sabotage, Kethver concluded. But how? Our security is absolute. The answer came in the form of more packages. This time, they appeared directly in the Council chamber itself, despite security measures that should have made such delivery impossible. Each package contained detailed schematics of every security system in the building, down to the genetic scanners that monitored who could enter restricted areas. The note inside was longer this time. Did you really think 30 years of watching us meant we were not watching you? Every system you showed us, we studied. Every weakness you revealed, we remembered. You wanted to treat us like children. Children learn by watching their parents very carefully. Prime Resonance Kethver held the note in his crystal hands and felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Not fear of death or pain, but fear of facing an intelligence that was genuinely superior to his own. The strikes continued. Trade computers developed glitches that somehow calculated shipping costs in favor of non-Council species. Military databases suffered selective memory losses that affected only information about human capabilities. Power grids experienced rolling blackouts that seemed to target Council facilities while leaving everyone else untouched. They are playing with us, Admiral Dexara reported during a secure conference. These are not random attacks. They are demonstrations. They are showing us that they can strike anywhere, at any time, and we cannot stop them. Then find them. Zermath's gas cloud pulsed red with rage. Use every ship, every sensor, every intelligence asset we possess. They cannot hide forever. But the humans could hide, and they did. The fleet searched for 3 months without finding a single trace of human presence. Meanwhile, the galaxy around them continued to fall apart. The breaking point came when the Kithra swarms attacked. The ancient enemy emerged from the dark space beyond the Galactic rim with a force that dwarfed their previous invasions. Hundreds of massive hive ships, each one the size of a small moon, descended on Council space like locusts. The combined fleet, scattered across the galaxy searching for humans, was caught completely off guard. The first wave of attacks destroyed 3 entire star systems before the Council could even send out warning messages. Admiral Dexara rushed her forces toward the invasion site, but she knew it was too late. The fleet was too spread out, too focused on hunting ghosts to face a real threat. The Kithra had chosen their moment perfectly as her bioship jumped toward the battle. Dexara wondered if the humans had somehow known this was coming. If they had seen the signs the Council had missed while focused on political control. If they had, and if they were still out there watching, would they help? Or would they sit in their hidden refuge and watch the galaxy that had rejected them burn? The answer would come sooner than she expected. The Kithra swarms had not forgotten how to kill. Their hive ships moved through space like living nightmares, each one pulsing with organic weapons that could melt entire fleets. Behind them came clouds of smaller vessels, fighter creatures bred for one purpose: to consume everything that lived and add its mass to the swarm. Admiral Dexara watched her fleet die around her. The combined force that had seemed so mighty during the hunt for humanity was being torn apart like paper. Kithra bioweapons ate through ship hulls as if they were made of sugar. Architect crystal vessels shattered under sonic attacks that turned their own structure against them. Thermal core ships simply melted as Kithra heat vampires drained their energy. Fall back to defensive position Gamma 7. Dexara ordered, but she knew it was hopeless. The fleet had been caught spread across the galaxy, hunting for humans who did not want to be found. Now they were paying the price for that mistake. The contemplatives. Great gas cities burned in the void as Kithra-feeding tendrils drained them of life. The Zeridian ocean worlds boiled under focused solar bombardment. Even mighty Nexus Prime, the Council's seat of power, was under siege on the bridge of her dying bioship. Dexara made a decision that would have been unthinkable a month earlier. She activated the emergency broadcast system and sent a message on all frequencies, in all languages, to every corner of the galaxy. This is Admiral Dexara of the Galactic Council. We are under attack by the Kithra swarms. All species, all ships, all who can hear this message, please assist. The swarms will not stop with us. They will consume everything. Please, we need help. The responses came from a dozen species. Small fleets, trade vessels, even civilian ships armed with mining equipment. But it would not be enough. The Kithra had learned from their previous defeats. They came prepared for everything the galaxy could throw at them. Everything except what came from the galactic core. The first sign was a distortion in space, itself near the neutron star where Nexus Prime orbited. Something was bending reality, creating gravitational waves that made the very fabric of space-time ring like a bell. Then the ships appeared. They came out of what should have been empty space, materializing from regions where the radiation should have killed anything made of normal matter. The vessels were unlike anything any species had ever seen. They moved with purpose and grace, their hulls gleaming with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. Human ships. But not the rough, practical vessels the galaxy remembered. These were works of art and science combined, each one a testament to what humanity had become during their exile. This is Admiral Chun Martinez of the Human Expeditionary Force, came a voice over the communication channels. We have received your distress call. Admiral Dexara felt her heart stop beating for a moment. Admiral Martinez, the Council wishes to thank you for responding. We are prepared to discuss terms for assistance. No terms needed, Martinez replied. We do not negotiate with people who are dying. What followed was not a battle. It was a surgical operation. The human ships did not engage the Kithra directly in the massive fleet actions the Council expected. Instead, they moved through the swarm with impossible precision, striking at specific targets with weapons that seemed to bend physics. Itself, Kithra command ships that had controlled entire sectors suddenly went silent as human infiltrator vessels appeared inside their hulls without passing through the armor. Swarm communication networks collapsed as human electronic warfare specialists turned the creatures' own biological systems against them. Hive queens that had lived for millennia found themselves isolated and confused as their children stopped obeying their commands. In 72 hours, the largest Kithra invasion in galactic history was reduced to scattered fragments fleeing back to the dark between the stars. Admiral Martinez's flagship appeared in orbit around the ruined Nexus Prime. The station that had once housed the Council's seat of power was a broken shell. Its crystal halls shattered and its biogardens dead. This is Admiral Chun Martinez. His voice echoed across what remained of Council space, broadcasting to all surviving Council members. Prime Resonance Kethver, speaking from a damaged crystal ship that was all that remained of the Architect fleet, responded first. Admiral Martinez, The Council wishes to express its gratitude for your assistance. We are prepared to discuss the restoration of diplomatic relations." "No," Martinez said simply. "We are not here to restore anything. We are here to make something clear." The main display screen on every surviving Council ship lit up with an image of Admiral Martinez. He was older than the humans the Council remembered, his face marked by years of experience. Behind him stood officers wearing uniforms of a design no Council species had ever seen. "You tried to cage us because you were afraid of what we might become," Martinez began. "You were right to be afraid, but not for the reasons you thought." The display changed to show star charts of the galactic core. Regions that should have been empty space glowed with the light of massive construction projects. Cities that floated in the gravity wells of black holes. Forge worlds that used the power of neutron. Stars to build technologies the Council had never imagined. "You feared we would become like the precursors, reckless, destructive, a threat to galactic civilization." Martinez smiled, but it was not a cruel expression. "You should have feared us becoming ourselves." Another image appeared, ancient records from deep in the Council archives. Files that had been sealed for millennia. The truth about the precursors and what had really happened to them. "The precursors were not destroyed by their own mistakes," Martinez continued. "They were destroyed by your predecessors. The first Galactic Council decided they had grown too powerful, too independent. So they sterilized every precursor world and called it a natural disaster. The silence that followed was the sound of a galaxy learning that its foundational myths were lies. We found their ruins in the core worlds," Martinez said. "We learned from their mistakes. Not the mistakes you told us they made, but the real mistake, trusting species who believed freedom was too dangerous for others to possess." Kethver's voice was barely a whisper. "What? What do you want from us?" "Nothing," Martinez replied. "We want nothing from you at all. We have claimed no territory outside the core worlds. We demand no tribute. We seek no revenge. We want only to be left alone. Then why did you save us?" Admiral X. Ara asked. Martinez was quiet for a long moment. "Because that is what humans do. We save people who are in trouble, even if they are people who hurt us. Even if they are people who would hurt us again given the chance." The display changed one final time, showing quantum beacons being placed around strategic systems throughout Council space. Devices that would monitor but not interfere. "The old Council is finished," Martinez announced. "What you build to replace it is up to you. But understand this, if you come for us again, if you come for anyone with chains and cages and talk of containment protocols, you will learn why the galaxy whispers our species' name with respect. And what name is that?" Kethver asked. Martinez smiled again, and this time there was something wild in his expression. Something that reminded watching species that humans had fought monsters in the dark for centuries before they ever knew aliens existed. "They call us the species that chooses mercy when it could choose conquest. They call us the ones who walked away from peace to find something better. But mostly, they call us the wolves who learned to be shepherds." The human ships vanished as mysteriously as they had appeared, leaving behind quantum beacons that pulsed with gentle light. Watching, protecting, waiting. In the ruins of the Council chambers, the surviving species began the long work of rebuilding. But they built differently now, with the knowledge that somewhere in the dark between the stars, humanity had found what the galaxy thought impossible: true freedom. And perhaps most importantly, they had proven that the galaxy's apex predators were not the ravenous Kithra or the ancient precursors. They were the species that could have ruled everything, but chose instead to protect everyone. The Age of Shepherds had begun.